Let's find Stephen Friedman. Got to know the faces. Like everyone, we give you the face, and also let's show you the ties. Yeah, how's he interconnected with stuff? Chairman of Obama's Foreign Intelligence Advisory Board. And this is Friedman worked for much of his career with Goldman Sachs, holding numerous executive roles. He served as the company's co-chief operating officer from 87 to 90 and was the company's co-chairman from 1990 to 92 and the sole chairman from 92 to 94. He still serves on the company's board. So, that's right, he doesn't want any lobbyists. I don't want anybody controlling my thing.
We can go ahead and tell the lobbyists their days of setting the agenda are over.
Because I told you my real name. Yeah. Okay, gets better. Let us keep moving. We could tell you more about Friedman, as chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, in response to criticism of his December 2008 purchase of 3 million shares of Goldman stock. Gets good, huh? And remember, Goldman did what? They sold BP stock 2 days before when? Before that big leak, huh? What was Halliburton doing on that rig? Yeah, that's a whole nother story. All right, now let's go Michael Froman. You should know him, Michael Froman. Meet your criminal banker, okay? Robert Rubin's chief of staff, okay? Yeah, Rubin, that's right, okay? Served as the Treasury Secretary, okay? And Obama headhunter. According to, Rubin proteges changed their tune as they join Obama's team, in the New York Times, that's what they're saying. Okay, Jason Furman. Let's find out who is Jason Furman. Let's look at Jason's ties. Furman served as the second director of the Hamilton Project after Peter Orszag's departure for the Obama administration. Where do you know, Oh, okay. How about Ann Fudge? This is pretty good. Ann Fudge. Yeah, she's with the CFR and she's with General Electric. Aren't they the people that make cluster bombs? But we're not going to have any lobbyist people in my group, okay? But let's find out. We're back with Jane. Let's see. Obama just appointed Fudge to be his Budget Deficit Reduction Committee. Fudge has been the craftsman for some of America's largest corporations, a PR craftsman, that is, public relations, okay? She sits, according to the Washington Post, as a trustee of the Brookings Institution. What a small world. Isn't it very small? Yeah. Well, let's move along. Let's go to Mark Gallagher, if I pronounce it right. Gallagher? Let's take a look at Mark's ties. Here's Mark. Don't let's forget Mark and his ties. He sits on the Hamilton Project's Advisory Council. And he's currently a member of President Obama's President's Economic Recovery Advisory Board. My, isn't it yet just a small world? Let's continue on with Timothy Geithner. You remember Timothy, the one who said we need to bail out these banks. We got to get, trillions of dollars must be stolen from your great-grandchildren. Well, he's tied to the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations. Started by who? By Rockefeller. That's a banker guy, huh? And also he's tied to Rubin. He's tied to Kissinger. I remember that name. He's also with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. Said some very interesting things. You should, pay attention, especially people who like to check facts. Do you? As one of the most documented of all people within the Obama administration while serving as Obama's Secretary of Treasury. He was named head of the New York Fed by none other than George W. Bush because change is important. We need change. Yeah, okay. Underscoring Gore Vidal's observation that America is run by one corporate party and it has two wings, the Republican and Democrat. That's why I say you as a viewer, think American. Vote these bums out. Get rid of these incumbent scum like Barney Frank we have here in Massachusetts, like Kerry, okay? Get the bums out. They've been doing this to you for years, and it's time you wake up. And thank you once again for watching The Real Story. Maybe you'll learn something here. Geithner moved to the International Monetary Fund. Oh, yeah, that's right. He's tied to the IMF. That's a whole fun thing. Such as Geithner's decision to deny Goldman's competitor the same treatment and gave... Okay, here we go. Many of Geithner's actions profited Goldman Sachs directly or indirectly. Can I tell you all that? According to Time magazine, such as Geithner's decision to deny Goldman's competitor the same treatment he gave Goldman. Yeah, they got to start doing things like commodity futures and derivatives when nobody else could. Yeah, we'll get into that. Matter of fact, let's roll to that. Let's just for you, show you a little bit of the Keiser report with Max Keiser.
European debt crisis. Markets fall as Germany bans naked short selling. Now, I bring this up because it's been in the news for the last week, but we also mentioned this with our recent interview with Jim Rogers. Traders were alarmed by the unexpected ban on naked short selling. So I want to turn to this video of from CNBC, where they're interviewing the CEO of Stifel Nicolaus, and he was asked by CNBC, isn't naked short selling already illegal in the U.S.?
There used to be a phrase, he who sells what isn't his'n puts it back or goes to prison, and that was related to stocks. Is that no longer operational?
No, it is operational in the cash markets.
Right.
All right. So in the cash markets, you cannot short my stock, for example, unless you can borrow it. You need to take delivery or make delivery in the cash market. In the derivatives market, that does not apply.
Right.
And that's the big difference. You could create a short interest in an individual stock, theoretically multiple times the market cap of that stock, with no obligation to deliver it. That's naked short selling, and it's done in the derivatives market every single day.
Right. The derivatives market versus the cash market, what he's pointing out there is that the derivatives market is rife with counterfeiting. That's the key phrase, counterfeiting.
Many were outraged in the financial press about Merkel's move. Now, the naked short selling is covering the shares of 10 of Germany's biggest banks, sovereign bonds issued by Eurozone countries, and credit default swaps on those bonds. Here's a quote from Cantor Fitzgerald. Pathetic, unable to muster the political will or intelligence to tackle fiscal restructuring. EU regulates hedge funds and Germany bans naked shorts.
They're advocating counterfeiting. They're advocating naked short selling, which is equivalent to counterfeiting, and that's just the beginning of the stuff that they're doing over there at Cantor.
Well, of course, Cantor Fitzgerald is a bond buyer. They buy bonds around the world, including, I suppose, Greece, perhaps. But it's very ironic, him saying, oh, these European governments should do fiscal restructuring, when the situation they find themselves in, of course, is because that none of the banks were willing to do debt restructuring, which is a normal part of capitalism. These banks should have been negotiating and restructuring their deals with Greece and other bad debtors.
Yes, it's a form of financial narcissism where they don't believe that their own mistakes are to be punished in any way. They see only perfection when they look in the mirror. This goes back to Lloyd Blankfein believing he does God's work. They believe that they are supreme beings, that they have no accountability to the law whatsoever, or even the laws of physics, believe it or not. And that's quite amazing coming from that particular firm. What else do you have?
Speaking of being beyond the law, SEC report on May 6 meltdown discusses HFT has not one mention of the New York Stock Exchange supplementary liquidity providers. HFT is, of course, high-frequency trading. So the Securities and Exchange Commission released their preliminary findings into the flash crash of May 6th. The agency said they had found no evidence that the decline was caused by the so-called fat finger trading errors or by computer hacking or terrorist activity. They added, however, that, quote, we cannot completely rule out these possibilities.
It was a terrorist strike. It was a domestic financial terrorist. And it's clear that when you've got program trading and high-frequency trading and you flood the market, 70% of the market are these bogus transactions with computers transacting with themselves. All you need to do is pull buys on one side or pull sells on the other side, and you can engineer a terrorist financial attack, and that's what happened on May 6th. And it's used politically. That's the thing about these markets now. Because you've got folks on Wall Street who don't want to be regulated, they can just create financial calamities as a way to hold the Congress in America ransom, is what we see almost every day at this moment. And, of course, people in Congress themselves are invested in the very financial products that are causing the domestic financial terrorist attacks in the U.S.
Now, this article on Zero Hedge, they mentioned supplementary liquidity provider, which Investopedia defines as a market participant that uses sophisticated high-speed computers and algorithms to create high volume on exchanges in order to add liquidity to the markets.
They're not adding liquidity. They're manipulating the price. There's nothing wrong with the price discovery mechanism as it is. You don't need Goldman Sachs to stick their nose in there and manipulate prices. That's fraud.
Well, Max, this is a program that was introduced post-Lehman collapse. And it was in order to prevent a situation just like this, when the Treasury and the SEC were saying there was an evaporation of liquidity. And so they introduced this where basically Goldman and another company, Getco, they have this, basically dominate this market of providing this liquidity in the time of a crisis. So where were they?